One of the most controversial areas of long-term thinking is a set of ideas known as long-termism. Long-termism is founded on three principles. The people in the future matter, it's likely that there'll be a lot of them, and it's in our gift to make their existence nicer or nastier. A long-termist may even say it's a moral priority of our time to improve the lives of these future possible people, even if that means our actions today cause harm to people alive here in the here and now. It's a curious set of ideas, and it's attracted a lot of attention and wealthy backers, criticism and controversy. And to better understand this branch of long-term thinking, I spoke to Richard Fisher, who is a senior BBC journalist and author of the book The Long View: How the World Needs to Transform How It Sees Time. I asked him, what is long-termism and how is this different from simply engaging with the future or taking the long view? This is what he had to say.
Yeah, great. Thank you. It's good to talk about this because I do think there is a difference between long-termism, the philosophy, and taking the long view or being long-minded. So long-termism is a term for a philosophy that's maybe about 10 years old. It emerged in the effective altruism movement. So there were a group of people who wanted to work out ways to prioritize their actions within their lifetime in terms of doing the most good. So it began with, for example, looking at ways to spend kind of charitable philanthropic funds. So if you wanted to kind of like donate $1,000, for example, where is the best kind of most impactful way of donating that money? And the early conclusions were things like, well, you should donate malarial bed nets to the developing world. You know, you're more likely to save a life by donating your kind of charitable funds there than you might be in the US. Over time, however, like the kind of dimension of time itself started to be considered within this kind of movement. You know, looking at kind of like future generations, if you include their needs and desires into kind of these calculations, there are so many of them. You know, there could be potentially 100 trillion people living in the future. That the sheer scale of their kind of existence and those lives kind of add a kind of new moral urgency to the present, according to these philosophers. So there's one thing to know is that there are different types of long-termism. There's so-called weak long-termism, which is kind of like the general view that it should be a moral priority of our time to care about future generations. But you can go up the kind of like the spectrum into other kind of more kind of extreme versions. They get quite controversial. There's one, for example, called strong long-termism. Now this is much more kind of like strict, much more kind of demanding. This suggests that doing the right thing by future people is the number one moral priority of our time. Now, not everybody agrees with that, because that starts to go down strange, unusual paths where you start to kind of weigh the value of all future lives in the future against all the people living today. And so if there's 100 trillion people living in the future, but only 8 billion living today, then you might start to think, okay, well, I should start to make some strange decisions about like where my priorities lie. And so effective altruists themselves call this the train to crazy town, which is a kind of way of describing how a philosophy could lead to neglect in the present, potentially, you know, of kind of like people's needs or suffering or the problems that we face today, or even kind of like harms, you know, a greater good argument where the a harm done in the present could benefit, if it benefited future generations or slightly reduce the probability of a existential disaster in 1,000 years' time, then a very strong kind of crazy town long-termist might say, well, that's worth doing. And that's where it gets controversial. Not everybody agrees that long-termism is a good idea, and there's been quite a lot of pushback over the past 12 months or so. When I wrote my book, the chapter on long-termism, you know, I was writing roughly in 2021 and had the chance to make some edits in 2022. But all the things that have happened over the past 6 to 12 months in the world of long-termism are kind of things that are relatively new. I wrote in the book that, you know, long-termism is on a kind of steep upward trajectory. It's kind of billions of dollars are being kind of pushed into it. There's all sorts of kind of like controversial things that could like spin out from this theory. So everything in the book is accurate, but like it's such a fast changing kind of like field that you have to kind of run fast to keep up. So I've got a recent piece in Vox which kind of like updates my kind of this approach to long-termism. That in a nutshell, though, I see long-termism as one of many different long views that one might consider or adopt. So I'm not a long-termist myself, but I think there are interesting ideas in this field that are kind of worth taking note of, but it's not a kind of philosophy that I fully sign up to myself.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this clip, then you can click here somewhere to enjoy the full episode. And if you enjoyed that, then please do consider subscribing to support the channel. It means a lot. Thanks, and see you soon.